Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called My Husband Hides His Beauty. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! The story opens with our girl having a nightmare of being burned to death in her own home, which causes her to wake up gasping and crying. Yes, that is how she died in her past. But now she's just a 12-year-old cutie patootie red-haired girl who became an orphan barely a year after being reincarnated because her parents died in the land of the devils up north. So she is now a maid living with her uncle's household. What's worse in this world is that if you say anything about your past life, you'll be labeled a witch and be burned at the stake, which our girl never wants to experience again. Today, while on her way to deliver the family's meal, Leticia overhears her uncle's family arguing about the matter that her uncle has been searching for the deed to the mine that Leticia's family owns for the past 10 years in order to take over the property. His obsession with the land undoubtedly plays a role, but the true issue lies in their obligation to wed one of their daughters to the notorious monster head of Hallstead. The man is said to have been born with an ugly look, and the family is so terrifying that they have 3 old witches who will sacrifice the lady they do not like to the devils. To summarize, he was forced to get into a contract with the mentioned family because of their help when he was in danger looking for the documents in the land of the devil. The contract then flies over Leticia, and she takes it and reads it, which states that Alistair Gray, who owes his life to the master of Hallstead, must repay his debt by delivering one of his daughters to him. Alistair must marry off someone who is linked to him by blood, but who is the perfect candidate? Our poor girl Leticia! Alistair's 2 daughters agree, and they say she'll be an excellent match for the known monster of the north because she too is a witch who talks weirdly in her sleep. In order to save Leticia from being interrogated by the temple if news gets out that she's a witch, Mrs. Gray uses this new information to frighten her into marrying into the Hallstead family. The next day, she is aboard a wagon on its journey to the north when they are abruptly stopped by a swarm of monsters known as imps. The carriage swiftly reverses course, abandoning her to face the imps' hideous gazes alone. Leaving a 12-year-old daughter behind? They're even worse! Leticia runs into a cave to hide, but when she peeks, she discovers that the imps are hanging butane fuel cans as decorations on their little cart. That's definitely not from this historical world. Thanks to these strange random butane cans, our girl devises a brilliant plan to avoid being eaten by those red goblins. She sneaks behind them, steals one butane, and throws it to the fire horse, who chews it, resulting in a massive explosion. Still, some manage to make it through, and one of them is on their way to attack Leticia when an unknown guy hurls a dagger into its skull. Following that, she observes 2 elderly ladies fending off the remaining imps, along with a third who discovers the Gray's crest in an empty, destroyed wagon. It seems like those guys didn't make it, did they? They swiftly shift their attention to Leticia, who confirms that she is indeed the daughter of Count Gray, adopted to be exact. Meanwhile, she senses an unsettling presence behind her, the voice of a man who is relieved that Gray fulfilled his promise, and turns around to find a man wearing a horned mask, concealing his face. Upon noticing his dragon crest, she comes to the realization that he is both the Lord of Halstead and her husband. I know he's tall, but his age isn't too far off from her, so nothing to worry, guys. And I love how he looks like a baddie demon lord here. They have arrived at Hallstead Castle, and Leticia cannot believe that the rumors about these 3 witches and the monster ruler are true. They just saved you, dear. Still, she trembles in fear, so the elder lady, wearing her monocle, decides to introduce herself as Alexa, the butler, with a serious face, which scares her even more. Not only that, the other 2 decide to follow her lead, so Leticia finds out that the lump one is Bastian, the nurse's aide, and the one with the eye patch is Casaro, the chef. But at what price? The little one is so traumatized. It's really nice to see 3 goofy-looking elders. That night, Leticia couldn't sleep because she's afraid the 3 witches will eat her or something. So she went outside to find a way to escape. She then spots 2 guards and hurriedly hides until Erden, our masked main lead, runs into her. She is unable to respond when Erden asks where she's going. So he leads her to a room, opens a secret passage, and assures her that the path will lead her to the stables. He goes on to say that she can pick a horse and that the horsekeeper will accompany her till she reaches the south, which confuses Leticia. Well, it's just that Erden knows she's trying to escape, so he tells her she's free to do so because he still needs to read his book. which sparks her interest. So she looks over to his hand and notices a book about bunnies. Oh, he's a softie, is he? This is her chance, but Leticia refuses to leave, claiming that she has nowhere to go because she lacks funds, and that coming home would mean saying hello to the temple. She begs him to let her stay and take her as his wife, but Erden instantly refuses for the time being, leading her to panic and assume that this guy is going to eat her or offer her as a sacrifice. This causes her to cry her heart out, forcing Erden to yell that they can't marry yet because he, too, is a minor. Is he simply too tall, or is our girl just too small? Anyway, they're both adorable. Leticia has finally calmed down after a hot drink, and while Erden explains that they do not eat people or offer sacrifices, she notices something cute. The mug design has a bunny. She soon finds out that their age difference is only 3 years, as Erden is only 15 years old. To ease her fears, Erden reveals that the believed haunting lock room is actually a sparkling room made for her, and that the so-called 3 witches are actually kind people, but that the rumors about him are true, stating that he does, in fact, have a terrible face. He believes that someone like her deserves far better, prompting Leticia to reveal that she is not the Count's daughter and was only forced to go because her uncle refuses to send his daughters. She then looks down and asks if he will send her back, which was Erden's goal from the beginning. But he has changed his mind and will let her stay if she wishes, which she confirms. He makes the decision to guarantee her safety by writing a vow that she will be protected from danger so long as she remains within the castle. Oh, he is such a green flag. He then accompanies her to her room, but before he leaves, he is taken aback when Leticia addresses him by his name, something he hadn't heard in a long time since his parents' deaths. After he leaves the room, a part of her starts to believe Erden isn't such an awful person, and she wonders how he looks behind his mask. Meanwhile, our boy looks at his reflection in the water and calls himself hideous. We haven't seen his face yet, but I can tell he's lovely. So this could be due to a curse, or he could lower his standards, or is he just really humble? Anyway, if he's hideous, then I'm a potato. The next day, Leticia goes to the garden, happy for a good night's sleep, free of nightmares, and she happens to spot an apple tree. But our girl is too small to pluck any of them. Erden approaches her quietly and begins expertly cutting the apple into a bunny-shaped apple, which he then gives to her. She happily munches on the apple slices, but just as she's about to express her gratitude, Erden disappears. She is now having breakfast, and her eyes widen as she sees the exquisite food in front of her. Yet her mind goes to Erden and discovers that he went out to hunt devils nearby, which is his duty and responsibility as Lord of Halstead. Leticia becomes worried, prompting Bastian to comfort her that she doesn't need to worry because he's strong and will return the next day. Suddenly, Leticia claims that she wants to help their household, leading Alexa to believe that the potential second master is a Karahan, an old northern dialect that refers to a true ruler. Alexa then sits next to her and explains that the castle is protected from both inside and outside, and that while one is now absent, the other should protect it from within. Alexa suggests that she help make the blessings knots. It is an old tradition that if one leaves for battle with self-made knots on his sword, he will return safely, and the threads used to tie the knots will guide him home. After breakfast, Romina and the other maids gladly welcome Leticia to help them make knots. While she is overwhelmed by the kindness she's receiving, it makes her question if this happiness will be short-lived. She keeps pondering as they hear the bell, which warns them of an evil beast attack. Everyone panics, which worries Casaro, especially because Lord Halstead is away. Curiosity then leads Leticia to discover that giant ants are attacking them, despite their initial belief that the sandstorm had washed them away, implying that they must have used an artifact. Alexa then discovers that the giant ants have already arrived in full force from underground, and if they don't hurry, they will begin building a tower of soil against their castle walls in order to invade it. Moreover, their uncertainty about Lord Halstead's location leads Casaro to believe that their enemies waited until he left, thereby reducing their number of guards. Leticia then insists on helping, leaving Bastian with no choice. As everyone is busy doing their part to help, Leticia is astonished to find the same gas can again. The enormous ants become more aggressive, pushing soil against their wall. Everyone panics, and Alexa asks Casaro for the next step, which Leticia overhears. Leticia is hesitant to inform them about the butane gas, fearing that they will ask her about it, and if they discover she can recall her previous life, she will be labeled as a witch. However, as she looks at them all, she recalls that the castle must be guarded by 2 masters, and that when one is absent, the other must safeguard it from within. This makes Leticia stop overthinking and shares her plan, explaining that they have to use the gas cans. She describes how igniting it will cause a big explosion, so those ants that are tunneling will be buried and the ant towers will surely crumble. Leticia's only problem now is that they don't have archers, but it appears that Hallstead isn't your average household, as Romina and the other maids are actually trained archers. Alexa then sends Romina up the tower with Leticia and the longbow archers, while Casaro authorizes the remaining members to shoot gunpowder-tipped arrows to help spread the fire, and they all prepare for a counterattack. With arm muscles tensed and unwavering focus, Romina, the best maid, releases her arrow in unison with the other maids, resulting in a powerful explosion below them. The ant tower is crumbling, so they relentlessly launch a torrent of fiery and explosive arrows to prevent any chance of recovery. Leticia then notices the queen ant trying to escape, and to make matters worse, they only have one butane left. Well, rest assured as Romina sets her sights on the queen, eliminating it to ashes and leaving behind only a mysterious item. What's this? A drop item after killing the boss? Anyway, I'm a fan of Romina and butane. They win and everyone celebrates, which means it's time for Leticia to be questioned. But to her surprise, Alexa simply lifts her and makes her the highlight of their celebration. Alexa promises that the Hallsteads will never forget what happened today and definitely repay her, even if it means risking their lives, which calms her small heart and leads her to cry. Meanwhile, Erden and his troops arrive and witness the chaos outside their palace, so he rushes inside, but is relieved to discover that they wiped out the ants with no damage, led by their second master, Leticia. Leticia walks gleefully towards Erden, but she pauses when she realizes how he flinches, assuming that he finds her unusual and most likely a monster at that. To her disbelief, Erden kneels and expresses his gratitude to her for protecting their people, making her blush and saying that she simply does not want anyone to be hurt. Erden is currently hanging out with Casaro as she peels potatoes, wondering if Leticia is a witch known for eating people and performing magic. But Casaro flips the question back to him, inquiring whether he truly thinks the little lady who quavered on her first day at their castle is a witch, a thought that Erden doubts. Still, Casaro wonders where Leticia gets her information, and says that if she happens to be a witch, that makes her a good witch. This makes me realize that Erden is still a child who needs guidance from his grannies. Following their chat, she advises him to get some rest because tomorrow is his engagement day. The next day, our little lady wears a veil and a simple white gown, as the real wedding will take place after they reach adulthood. While waiting, she can't help but want to grab a snack, but Casaro stops her and says the food is still bland, so she gives her an apple instead. Let her eat so she can grow taller! Erden then walks in, dressed similarly to Leticia, and with his signature Dark Lord-looking mask. They walk hand in hand to the center, where the priest begins the ceremony, and as the choir sings, confetti like salt falls. Erden says that this is the purest salt in the world, found exclusively in the north, and that throwing salt during celebrations is their tradition. That is why Casaro stated that the food is still tasteless because it needs salt. Erden approaches a door, proclaiming that she has now joined the Hallstead family, and he officially welcomes her when the unsettling black room behind him opens. Is that a basement or what? He makes it look like a villain's lair. He then extends his hand to her and says that this is the final stage of their ceremony, which frightens Leticia, but she gives in to him. They enter, and the steps lead them down below, making her anxious that she may die hungry or worse, be on the menu tonight. She screams when she sees Erden clutching a knife, and before our boy can explain what it's for, Leticia begins shouting and strikes him in the face. Even with his mask on, he looks hurt and sweet as he explains that they need to burn the contract at the altar and smudge a drop of their blood on the document to finalize it. After she's done, it's Erden's turn to take off his gloves, which Leticia is very curious about since she wonders if he has scales or if his hand is furry. But to her amazement, his hand is flawless. He could be a hand model with that hand. After they burn the document, Erden shows her a key and guides her to his family's treasure. The area appears sacred, and she notices a statue of Erden's parents. But her thoughts are interrupted as Erden calls her to check out an ancient book encased in a cage with chains all around it. He then reveals that it is the Great Book of Secrets, written by a great sage who vanquished demons long ago. He goes on to say that after his parents passed away, he tried to summon demons, something he swears he would never do again. But the sage appeared out of nowhere, defeated them, and took them as slaves. we'll probably learn why he summoned devils later. In any case, Erden unlocks the cage while explaining that the old sage recorded his victory over the devils in writing, but that the copy he owns is one of several with missing pages in an unknown language. Erden enthusiastically suggests that Leticia examine it, assuming that her level of knowledge will allow her to read it. She has no choice but to look at it, and oh my, that old sage was Korean because this book is literally written in Hangul. Sage got reincarnated too? That explains the butane cans! Unaware, Leticia reads the Korean book aloud, which makes Erden so excited and requests that she read more. While reading, she discovers that the great sage carried things from his realm of origin, suggesting he was not reincarnated like her. Is there like a portal or something? She then informs Erden that the great sage originated in a place where people, known as the modern capitalists, are far more evil than devils, and he used his experiences living among them to defeat the devils in their world. Whoever that sage is, he is not wrong. Leticia wants to know how the sage arrived in this world, but to her disappointment, the following pages are empty. However, unlike her, Erden is gushing nonstop at how amazing she is, and even calls her the Great Southern Sage, giving Leticia no choice but to reveal her identity to him. She is not a sage, and the book is simply written in the language she used in her past life. Erden pauses for a while, and upon learning that he is the only one she has told this to, he swears to keep her secrets with him until death because, as a member of the Hallstead family, she is under his protection. My boy really knows how to comfort her, and he does it by sharing his secret. First by showing her the Tear of Troy, an artifact recovered from the queen ant she defeated. He then informs her that artifacts have varied abilities, and that each estate's castle holds one treasured artifact, which makes her wonder if the Hallsteads have one as well. To her surprise, he reveals that it is actually his heart, as his Hallstead ancestors successfully embedded the artifact in their bodies to fight demons. However, the drawback was that it made their descendants look terrible, but on the plus side, he has a natural knowledge of all artifacts' names and powers. He then shifts the conversation to his dream of protecting good people, which requires him to destroy all devils. He goes on to state that he will set out on an expedition to gather copies of the Great Book of Secrets, indicating that they'll be unable to see each other for some time. This saddens her, but she chooses to support him, saying that Erden must return with the book because she is willing to help him with his dream. What's amazing about these two is that they know how to communicate. They return to the celebration only to discover that they have been in the basement for quite some time, while everyone else is enjoying themselves and indulging in food and drinks. Just as they are about to eat, Bastian interrupts, saying that it's time for bed and leaving them with no choice. They're really just kids here. The next day, while she merrily eats breakfast, she overhears Casaro's horrified voice from the porch. She then peeks and discovers that Erden is planning to leave that afternoon, startling the three grannies with his abrupt decision, given that the journey will take heaven knows how long. While he is away, dangerous creatures can strike at any moment, and they fear they'll be helpless to defend the castle and its people. Erden is already aware of this, so he shows them the Tear of Troy, an artifact recovered from the queen ant that has the power of oblivion and disguise, and explains that with the artifact, the Hallstead castle will be erased from the minds of all humans and beasts outside their estate, making sure that no one remembers where it is or even that it exists. Erden then vows to his grannies that he will succeed in his quest so they can live in peace and comfort without fighting devils, which makes them all cry at his seeming maturity despite the fact that he is just their young master bunny fanatic. Suddenly, he spots Leticia, but she runs inside, prompting the maids to believe she's upset with him. He is concerned and confused about what to do, so Bastian comforts him and assures him that she'll look after Leticia, so he does not have to worry. Meanwhile, Leticia rushes back to her room, thinking how her heart breaks to see Erden prepare to leave. He appears lonely, and despite his young age, he is so kind and dedicated that he bears the weight of everything. She then hurriedly grabbed up the blessing knot she had personally made. At least when they meet again, they'll be ready for love, so this makes sense. Erden's grannies reassure him that he can always return, emphasizing that their primary concern is his safety, not the books, while he firmly tells them that he'll be fine. At that point, he spots Leticia and quickly apologizes for his unexpected departure. He asks her to look after the castle while he is away, and says that she is free to leave Hallstead if she wishes. However, she interrupts him and proclaims her willingness to wait for him there, handing him the knot of blessings. Everyone watches the squad leave and say their goodbyes as they begin their journey, while Alexa and Cosaro prepare underground to set the Tear of Troy at the heart of their castle. Leticia joins the people at the gate tower and yearns to shout out Erden's name, but she realizes he's already out of reach. However, knowing that nobody knows when they will cross paths again, she raises her voice and calls out his name, causing him to turn around just as the castle disappears from view. The soldiers he's with are starting to doubt their ability to find their way back, but my boy Erden reassures them that they don't need to worry because he remembers. 7 long years have passed. As the carriage approached Duke Belair's estate, the devils in charge of guarding the gate stop it and ask about the land's name and purpose. Cosaro, furious, informs them that they are there for the night market and instructs them to just open the gate. However, they must undergo a thorough inspection before entering, so Cosaro has no choice but to open the carriage door for inspection. The devil records that 1 coachman and 2 passengers are entering their castle. He then inquires about where they are from, and Leticia casually replies that they are from Hallstead. My gosh, that little darling Letty has blossomed into such a stunning young woman! Also, I have to say, I did not expect that the time skip would be this long. Anyway, they're now strolling through the night market, and Cosaro expresses her concern when Leticia mentions their castle's name. But our girl simply grins and assures her that no one will remember because the artifact is still active. While they shop for necessities, her mind can't help but drift to Erden, who they haven't heard anything from in the last 7 years. She worries about how he's doing right now, if he's even alive at all, as everyone is becoming increasingly concerned as the Tear of Troy's power is already weakening. She is then fascinated by a salesman, so she checks what he is selling, and to her delight, she finds her favorite chocolate bar. She buys it and is glad that the snack has not gone rotten yet. According to reports, these otherworldly items came from an unexplained portal, a door, some say, while others refer to it as a storehouse, whose precise location remains a mystery. Interesting. She then overhears a shouting golem who is enraged that no one knows about the Hallsteads for the past 7 years, which surprises Leticia, but thankfully Cosaro is there behind her to calm her down. Looking back 7 years, the other demons know that the imps were beaten by a small bride whom they think to be the Great Devil. However, the golem doesn't seem to care about this and instead says that the Hallsteads must have used some sort of magic to make everyone forget about them. He then removes his hood and everyone is surprised to see Karax, Velosa's strongest stone golem, return. Karax and his tribe actually went to the outer region for training after being defeated by Erden, and he now intends to attack the Hallstead with the assistance of the Centurias, who are on their way to the Spider's tomb. Now inside the carriage, Leticia is worried that the artifact doesn't work on Karax. But Cosaro thinks it's because Karax left when the artifact was strong and returned after it weakened. Cosaro proposes attacking Karax first in the Spider's tomb, a suggestion that Leticia rejects due to the maze-like nature of the location. But she's also aware that sitting back and waiting for the artifact to wear out is unsafe. Leticia begins to analyze, and thanks to the Great Book of Secrets and the other books in the library that she's been reading on repeat for the past 7 years, she has gained knowledge about both the high-ranking Devil Society and the lower-ranking demons. So when they get home that evening, Leticia explains her plan with the 3 grannies, which Alexa finds extremely devilish, while Bastion is concerned that her plan to attack the stone golem Centaurus before they join Karax is still risky, because there are 100 of them. This is true, but if they band together with Karax, they'll be much more deadly. Leticia can only pray that the stone golems are as stupid as she pictured them to be. She then gives them a resolute look, assures them that she will do her duty to protect Hallstead, and then leaves for her bed. As soon as she is alone in her room, she begins to tremble because she can't believe she came up with such a risky plan, and fears that she'll not even reach her 19th birthday. However, simply thinking about her people boosts her spirit, and she would do anything to protect them until Erden returns. The day has arrived, and they are now in a woodland which Leticia believes is where the Centurias have assembled. And the girl is correct because she comes face to face with this massive Centurias, which she did not expect given how small Karax is. Although, I must admit, these golems do appear goofy compared to Karax. These gigantic creatures now surround Leticia, the 3 grannies, and 5 of their men. Whatever her plan is, I really hope it works. The golems are wary of them because they are carrying weapons, but before they turn hostile, Leticia lifts her hand, and everyone acts as if they're dead. After that, she introduces herself as the Great Devil and taunts the golems with her fierce gaze, labeling them as insignificant creatures. She raises her hand once more to display her powers, and Kusaro pretends to be under Leticia's influence, leading the golems to assume that our girl is, in fact, the renowned Great Devil. After she verifies that the golems are stupid, she shows them 100 gold coins, which makes them giddy with envy since, as everyone knows, golems are absolutely obsessed with money. She decides to turn this into an advantage by offering them her entire fortune if they can defeat the 5 soldiers, an offer that they gladly accept. As the golems celebrate, Leticia casts a glance at her men, expressing her sorrow for using them as bait while they tremble in fear. Can we just applaud these men for volunteering for this mission? The game begins, and after evading several of the golems' attacks, the men fall dead, which the golems find strange but do not mind. Everyone is now searching for the last soldier, and they start arguing that they don't want to divide the money equally, as it would mean they will only receive 1 gold coin each. Consequently, the golems start fighting each other until only one severely injured golem is left. She played them really smoothly and wisely. He demands the Great Devil for his money, but when he turns around, Leticia, who looks amazing with her bow and arrow, shoots him in the head. Greed and stupidity aren't a good mix, but I must say, I'm a teeny-weeny sad for those cute golems. Now that the mission is complete, Leticia collapses to the ground and begins crying as she expresses how terrified she was, prompting the 3 grannies to instantly comfort her. The soldiers then begin collecting the life stones from the golem's heart, and it is safe to say that no one escaped because they collected precisely 100 of them. Alexa then informs Leticia that the Tear of Troy will most likely run out of power in 2 days, prompting our girl boss to become serious again by announcing that as soon as they return home, they must prepare everyone for battle against Karax. They've returned to Hallstead and everyone is busy preparing, while Bastian visits Leticia and brings up how little and malnourished she is when she first arrived. Granny breaks down in tears as she wishes Leticia would always be their little girl, and she kneels down before Leticia and tells her to escape if things get bad. Despite Leticia's feelings of guilt, Bastian encourages her to make a pledge because they cannot afford to lose her, especially since they have no idea whether Erden is alive or not. Not long after that, the artifact's power finally fades, revealing their fortress once again after it had been hidden for 7 long years. Bastian can now stand shoulder to shoulder with that once young girl as they both get ready for an all-out war with Karax. I'm so proud that she matured well, but seriously, when is Erden coming home because Bastian is giving the death flag here? After Karax hastily orders the Centarias to strike, he gets confused when nobody emerges. Leticia seizes the opportunity to frighten him by displaying the 100 golem life stones. The golems believe Leticia is the great demon who made a contract with the Hallstead, but Karax knows that those who make a contract must work together, and the fact that Leticia is alone convinces him that Lord Halstead is away and that our girl is simply deceiving them. He then gives the order for his troops to charge, forcing Leticia to take defensive measures as well. The maids unleash a barrage of arrows, the soldiers employ catapults, and Bastian skillfully wields her sword. However, Bastian is caught off guard as a golem silently approaches from behind, capturing her with one hand and causing her to cry out in pain. Thankfully, Kusaro arrives just in time, swiftly moving behind the golem and immediately striking its nape with her dual swords. Don't scare us like that, Bastian, but okay, attack on golems! Instead of praising Kusaro, Bastian still throws a joke about how she's just getting warmed up when they notice Alexa getting all fired up, which Bastian is concerned about because Alexa has high blood pressure. This granny truly adds to the humor of the situation. In any case, Alexa unleashes her battle cry and everybody gathers their full strength to defend their home. She really said Hallstead assemble right there. They better be safe. They are about to tie up the majority of the golems and defend their fortress thanks to their coordination. But they are still humans, and the conflict is far from over even as the sun sets. Everyone is worn out, especially Leticia, whose fingers are covered in injuries from shooting arrows, so they have no other option but to return to the castle and seal the gates. However, these golems are going to destroy their gates in no time, so Leticia decides to have the children and the elderly evacuated immediately. Bastian wants Leticia to escape as well, but she uses her assertive voice to beg Bastian to prioritize the people first, and she swears to depart after that, leaving Bastian with no choice but to obey her orders. However, she remains at the gate tower and continues to use her bow to attack in order to buy the people some time. But after realizing she's run out of arrows, Leticia's terror takes over her. Hearing the golems smash their walls makes her injured hands shake. but all she can do is stare up at the stars and tell Erden she's sorry she failed to defend their home. Oh, you did really well holding them off, darling. Suddenly, she hears a flapping of wings and opens her eyes to behold the exact emblem of Hallstead, a dragon with 2 sets of wings. This causes Leticia to gaze into the distance, hoping to see the man she misses, and certainly, after 7 years, Erden, looking so bulk, has returned to save his wife. I miss this masked man, bunny enthusiast, but boy, what took you so long? Leticia shouts out Erden's name just as she did 7 years ago, and this time, he hears it, which causes him to gaze in her direction. Meanwhile, everyone witnesses the dragon with 2 sets of wings, which is the symbol of Hallstead. This is a sign that the Lord of Halstead has returned, which in turn inspires everyone to remain resolute in their efforts to continue the battle and protect their castle. What a grand entrance to return with a dragon! Caraxen turns his focus to Erden and commands his troops to launch an attack on him. Erden and his men continue to advance, while my guy impressively demonstrates his improved strength by launching his spear at the golem's head, shattering it into pieces. Erden then draws his sword, the one with the knot Leticia had given him, and swiftly dismounts from his horse. His gaze stays set on Carax as he initiates a strong attack, but this golem is able to counter him. Caraxen launches an attack, only to be caught off guard as Erden's sword swiftly strikes him in the stomach, causing him to fall to the ground. Leticia watches him fight and breathes a sigh of relief, which Erden notices and is probably stunned to see how beautiful she has become, unaware that Carax is still alive and ready to strike from behind. Leticia sees this and her voice pierces the air, alerting Erden to the imminent danger. So he quickly turns around and strikes Carax on the side. Surprisingly, Erden's sword failed to completely cut through Carax's body, leaving Erden vulnerable. Seizing the opportunity, Carax swiftly retaliates and delivers a powerful blow to Erden's face. Leticia, filled with fear, rushes down the tower to be by his side, while Carax is now grasping Erden's neck, trying to strangle him to death. Gosh, Erden is bleeding behind that mask! Fortunately, Leticia arrives just in time on her horse, kicking Carax to let go of Erden as she falls from it. Carax's anger reaches its peak as his focus shifts to Leticia and he forcefully grabs her by the feet. His intention is clearly to kill her, until Erden swiftly impales him with a spear, piercing his left shoulder. He turns to gaze at Erden, so Leticia seizes the chance to grab Erden's blade, which is still stuck on Carax's side, causing the golem to scream in anguish and fall to his knees. Well, this golem really has a short attention span despite his intelligence. With fearless drive, our daring girl lets out a powerful cry as she wields the sword, delivering the fatal blow to Carax's head. Carax collapses, sending a wave of panic through his followers, who witness their leader's lifeless body. The announcement that Carax has been killed by the big devil results in all of the golems immediately packing up in order to guarantee their own safety. Meanwhile, Leticia is overcome with emotion, her breath quickening and her heart pounding. However, when she catches sight of Erden, she instinctively drops the sword and rushes towards him, embracing him in a tight embrace while tears fall down her cheeks. Erden's evident surprise quickly fades as he returns the embrace. His longing for her is really obvious in the way he envelops her in his arms. Oh, go lovebirds, I can now ship you two! The next day, Leticia wakes up wondering how she fell asleep and recalls crying like a baby on Erden's shoulder till she was exhausted. She then starts to worry that Bastian will scold her for being silly, and she's surprised to discover her fingers wrapped in bandages, wondering who did that to her. While she's still attempting to sort things out, she sees Erden asleep on the floor, holding a roll of bandages and scissors, hinting that he is responsible for the bandages on her fingers. But she still feels like she's in a dream, so she extends her hand to touch Erden to see if he's real. But to her surprise, Erden grabs her hand and pushes her to the floor while he's on top of her. They stare at each other for some time until they realize their awkward position, making Erden quickly let go and apologize for his actions. He then turns his back on her and reveals that when he was in the Dark Land, he was unable to let down his guard, even when he was sleeping. He also takes into account that it might take him some time to break the habit, which Leticia understands. After 7 hard years, Leticia knows they're both awkward with each other. Her heart is still pounding as she turns around to see Erden rocking a tight black suit that flaunts his muscles. He is buff! After Erden calms down, he apologizes again for what happened earlier and yesterday, reminding Leticia of their sweet embrace, which causes her to become flustered once more. Cutie. He then takes on a more serious tone, letting her know that he is surprised to see her in Hallstead because he thought she had already left. Leticia thinks Erden hasn't changed at all as he begins to act like her #1 fan, his eyes becoming all sparkling as he praises her for her courage in defeating Karoks and their enemies without any casualties. Even though his appearance and voice have altered, she is relieved to see that his personality is unchanged. Aw, he left as a cinnamon roll and returned home as a cinnamon roll. I love it! Anyway, Erden then presents her with a full copy of the Great Book of Secrets, which was the primary objective of his journey. After taking a closer look at the book, she understands that Erden has been gone for 7 years solely to get it for her. Hence, she is eager to lend him a hand. Erden gently lifted her veil, revealing her eyes. However, a loud knock on the door cuts short their time, and a knight alerts him that the dragon is causing havoc again. Leticia is surprised to see the dragon, and Erden informs her that they found it around the Dark Land. They believe it would be easy to tame a baby dragon, but they don't know how to do it. Observing the dragon's reaction reminds her of a stray cat she once cared for, and she suspects that the dragon feels trapped. She then casually walks up to the dragon, causing Erden to freak out. But still, she decides to talk to it, but it doesn't work, as this dragon just uses its tail to scare her. However, her persistence refuses to allow her to quit, so she scans her surroundings and discovers cat grass. With great enthusiasm, she presents the cat grass to the dragon, and as if by magic, the dragon engages in play with her. So cute! She then instructs them to remove the cage while comforting the dragon, leaving everyone in awe. Letty just made her own fan club now. She also informs everyone that dragons are intelligent. If they're not harmed, they will not become hostile, which leaves Erden wondering how she managed it. He is not done gushing at his wife when Alexa comes up to them to report that they've captured one of the stone golem messenger birds traveling to Velosa, and she hands him the note. Erden reads the letter quickly, crumples it furiously, and announces that Velosa intends to attack their castle, prompting Leticia to wonder how they can attack after losing Karoks and the Centaurian. Erden believes that Velosa has the support of other devil lords and fears that the attack will take place in a week, leaving Leticia to weigh her options. Unexpectedly, she tells Erden that she will give him a gift in return for the book, the Velosa Castle, and she says it with confidence, surprising everyone. While caressing the dragon, she has an idea to make Erden soar into the sky. Ooh, Toothless with Erden will be epic! Leticia starts training the dragon using cat grass, trying to capture its attention while the grannies are attempting to put a saddle on its back. However, their attempts are consistently unsuccessful. Despite her commitment to Erden to tame the dragon, Leticia grows increasingly frustrated as she struggles to control it. Erden pays an unannounced visit after learning that she is skipping meals to work with the dragon. She informs him that they are having trouble placing the saddle on the dragon, as it always stretches its body when they try to put it on. However, their real issue is that the dragon appears to be so attached to her that it follows her around, ignoring everyone else, including Erden, making him so hurt. A softie. He then proposes that she try riding on the dragon's back, which surprises her. He goes on to explain that once the dragon becomes accustomed to her presence, it might be more open to allowing others to ride it as well. Initially, she shows some hesitation, but manages to succeed on her first try. Erden then hops on next, causing a slight reaction from the dragon, but nothing too aggressive. Erden then leaps off, declaring that they still have a problem, since if the dragon only lets him up when he is with her, he would have to take her to battle beside him, which she welcomes. As Leticia prepares to descend from the dragon, Erden kindly offers his assistance. However, this never escapes the dragon's jealous eyes, prompting it to move its tail and strike Erden in the foot. This causes Erden to lose his balance, leading Leticia to believe that if she allows him to assist her, they will ultimately fall to the ground, with Erden on top of her. Since everyone is watching them, she decides to let go of him, and they fall to the ground separately. When she looks into Erden's pained eyes, though, her actions seem like a bad choice. So she tries to talk to him, but he quickly makes an excuse about forgetting something he needs to do that day and abruptly leaves. He tries to console himself, reassuring that the incident is acceptable and there is no reason to feel let down since he had expected Leticia to push him away because who would ever like a monster like him? His thoughts become muddled, but they clear when Leticia reaches out and holds his hand, shedding tears as she reassures him that he is not a monster. She understands our precious boy so well. And yes, guys, no misunderstandings are allowed in this story. She breaks down into tears as she explains that she behaved that way earlier because she doesn't want them to be in an awkward position again, especially in front of Alexa and the other soldiers who are watching. She was only self-conscious, but she emphasizes that he doesn't scare her at all. Erden's surroundings become all fluffy again, and he drops to one knee before her, gently takes her hands in his, and begs her to repeat her words about not being afraid of him, to which she willingly complies. At that moment, Erden cries and realizes that her words have a profound impact on him, filling him with a sense of wholeness. Leticia, confused by Erden's response, clarifies that she simply wants to avoid embarrassing him in front of everyone, but then Erden gently reminds her that they're married since they are no longer minors. This causes her to pause and reflect, realizing that she may have unintentionally made things more awkward. He then compliments her for being a kind person and excuses himself to finish what he's working on. He admits that he's writing the divorce papers, causing her eyes to widen with amazement at what she just heard. He went on to express that now that she's become a confident, self-reliant woman with considerable wealth, he feels it's time for her to embark on a fresh start. This lowers her mood, since Erden always acts this way. Whenever she tries to get closer to him, he withdraws, and just as she believes they're getting closer, he's already preparing to leave. Still, she agrees, but on one condition: they will write their divorce papers after they conquer the Velosa, and for that expedition, she wants to go to the Velosa with him, leaving him with no other choice. My boy is just convinced that he's a nobody, that's all, so please tell him you don't want to divorce. The next morning at the spider tomb, the golems are chatting about what happened to Koroks and Centauria, saying that the great devil of Hallstead wiped them all out. However, they also appreciate the support they receive from the other devil lords. Out of nowhere, a four-winged dragon soars above them, and Leticia makes an impressive queen entrance in her black jet armor outfit, with her crimson hair falling loose and her piercing expression. Oh wait, let's not forget her simp husband at the back, probably loving his view. The golems have succumbed to the myth that the Lord of Halstead entered into a deal with the great devil. She then clears her throat, and with a menacing glare and a frightening voice, declares her intention to take the Velosa castle while her husband is just there adoringly gazing at her, captivated by her cool yet powerful attitude. The way he is fanboying over his wife is so adorable. Leticia then smirks, inviting them to come to Velosa if they wish to fight her, and they take off, with her evil laughter resonating in the air. She's totally into her villainous character. Fearing they may be caught in the conflict, the foolish golems choose to flee the spider's tomb, and little do they know that the three grannies and the Hallstead troops will soon be taking the location. Well, just a few hours before the mission started, our queen informed everyone that the stone golems would either withdraw to Velosa or just flee. So the Hallstead soldiers would fill the spider's tomb and exploit it to their advantage when the battle with the Velosa starts. They have to hold their position until Erden enters Velosa's dungeon and retrieves their artifact, which everyone agrees on, including her cute dragon. Erden has a fantastic idea, but as a gentleman, he first asks her if she has a dragon name in mind. But since she hasn't, he offers that they name the dragon after the artifact that they'll be collecting at Velosa, which makes both her and the dragon delighted. For now, can I call him Toothless? After that, Erden's voice becomes serious as he wants to know why she's participating in the mission. And she just answers that she wants to know the truth. But in reality, she wants to stay by his side a bit longer to understand his true feelings for her. Erden warns her that the truth may be more terrifying than she can fathom, but Leticia grins and tells him that no matter how much she learns, nothing will change. Don't worry, she likes you because of how kind you are, even with your mask on. Anyway, Leticia and Erden arrive at Velosa Castle aboard their fearsome yet adorable dragon, prompting the golem guards to notify Lord Velosa. Leticia informs Velosa that the soldiers at the spider's tomb have already fled, and she presents him with a choice: surrender their artifact or face immediate death. Velosa trembles at the sight of them, but he is still enraged since Koroks is actually his son, which surprises our girl. But what's even more shocking is that after everything they've planned for this operation, this old guy falls to his knees and surrenders. He declares that he will give them the artifact and even escort them there. A promise that our girl is skeptical of, but they follow him to the location nonetheless. They've arrived, and after Velosa struggles to get the blue eyeball-like artifact, Erden demands he hand it over. Erden's knowledge of the artifact floods in as soon as he touches it, and he now knows its name is the Eye of Valhannas. However, it's too late for him to realize that this particular artifact has the ability to break all spells, which Velosa intends to use to his advantage. But while the artifact is in action, Erden manages to swing his sword and cut Velosa's head. Shortly after that, his mask comes off, revealing his cotton candy eyes. This is it, you guys. We will see Erden's face. However, upon noticing Leticia standing before him, he swiftly averts his gaze, frantically shouting that she shouldn't look at him. Leticia, who doesn't care if he's ugly and is genuinely worried that he's hurt, has no choice but to grab his face. However, as soon as she lays eyes on him, her eyes widen and fall to the ground. Erden becomes shy as he attempts to hide his face, but oh my, that face can light up the entire dungeon! A refined sculpture created from above and the most gorgeous slice of cinnamon bun that I could stare at for hours. Meanwhile, Leticia feels deceived because she has been told for years that he looks like a monster, making her question if he is actually her husband, causing Erden to lose confidence because he believes Leticia is disgusted with him. This caused Leticia to retract her comments and stops him from hiding his face, allowing her to stare at the most baby girl face I've seen. So the artifact was what finally broke the spell that made him so monstrous? Or were his good looks there all along? Erden removes her hand and understands if she's surprised to see his burned flesh, blisters and boils, as well as his hair loss, which confuses Leticia. So she cuts him off, stating that he is not hideous at all. However, as she attempts to reassure him further, her head begins to ache, and she collapses while hearing someone order her not to say anything further. She then witnesses a godlike being explain that Erden carries an ancient curse, and the being warns her that if she ever tells the truth, Erden will die, leading her to wake up gasping. However, her pain quickly passes when she looks at her gorgeous husband. After that, she attempts to recall what happened and is certain that the entity is warning her, which leads her to feel concerned about the Hallstead's history. For the time being, she sets that aside as she needs to convince Erden that she is not afraid of him. She asks him to look into her eyes and see if he can detect any fear in them, leading the two to stare at each other for a long time until Erden believes her. Just then, a glass butterfly lands on his face, which Leticia had never heard of, so he explains that these creatures absorb powers from magical items and can then be used to make new magical items. Seeing one of these butterflies, though, makes him happy because he heard that they're almost extinct. Following the butterflies' trail, they discover hundreds of glass butterflies in cages, revealing that Velosa may have been collecting them to create magical items. After they set them free, Leticia is encircled by beautiful butterflies, and with a smile on her face, she offers Erden her hand, saying that they should also go home, making Erden blush and accept her hand. Leticia is such a girl crush, and her husband is such a baby girl. What a cute match! When they return home, Isaac, an old blind craftsman, goes to the Hallstead treasury and retrieves the mask that Erden's father's statue is wearing. He gives it to Erden and requests that he wear it until he finishes creating a new mask. Erden then reveals to him that Leticia saw his face, which surprises the old man and wants to know how the lady reacted, leading Erden to timidly say that Leticia told him he isn't a monster. This makes Isaac admire Leticia even more, which is precisely how Erden feels, but he still intends to divorce her for her sake. Yet he can't help but hesitate now since he wants to see her beaming face for a long time. Meanwhile, Leticia reads a book in her room about how the devils are fascinated with beauty and are instantly drawn to beautiful things, which reminds her of Erden's lovely face. She can't help but swoon over his good looks, which makes her flush bright red and make her wonder whether she's developing feelings for him. Dear, you waited 7 years, so probably? Following that, Alexa visits Leticia in her room with a letter from the Wazen Castle, which Leticia promptly reads, discovering what seems to be an invitation to their upcoming ball. That evening, Leticia decides to knock on Erden's door, which surprises him and causes him to panic. But she has already entered before he could grab his mask. She is so blinded by his beauty that Erden assumes she is horrified by it, so he quickly hides his face, but she stops him and begs him to reveal his face to her when they're alone, a request he reluctantly complies with. After they settle down, Leticia tells Erden about the Wazen Castle invitation, and she finds out that the Wazens are devil hunters who haven't been very successful lately. The Hallsteads have always fought without allies, but Erden considers that participating in high society would be beneficial since they may learn valuable information. He also believes the Wizen are trying to gather allies because they are threatened by the Grand Devil Duke Belair, who has been expanding his power, meaning that more devil hunters will attend the ball. Leticia worries that attending will be dangerous because having all of the devil hunters in one location makes them easy prey for the devils. But Erden smiles and assures her that there is no need to be concerned because the Wizen artifact can negate the power of all devils and beasts. After a few days, Erden and Leticia are on their way to the Wizens, but her mind is still focused on the fact that the Grand Devil Duke Belair is increasing his powers. So our honey bunch sugar plum Erden informs her that the Duke is running a lavish gambling house for devils named Crystal Palace. This grabs Leticia's interest, so she proposes that they visit that place. Our girl fears no one. This surprises Erden because it would be risky, but Leticia says that she finds it unsettling that the Duke Wizen is holding a ball during such dangerous times, and she is unsure why the Wizens would suddenly invite them. Leticia points out that the devils are expanding but haven't harmed humans. They've even built a gambling house. This causes Erden to question the whole situation, and he realizes that since the Crystal Palace opened, devil hunting has decreased, and the Wizens, who have always fought the devils, have become inactive, leading him to believe that there must be a connection between the two. It's raining when they get to the wasteland, and after a while, a carriage with a coach devil appears and casually asks them to board, as if he already knows they're heading to the Crystal Palace. The devil then comes to a halt at a lake with a large dead tree in the center, which puzzles Leticia and Erden because the location does not appear to be particularly fancy, which the devil hears and guesses it's their first visit. He says that all they have to do is walk on the lake until they reach the tree to see the Crystal Palace, and then he goes away. Leticia decides to try it, and to her surprise, she can walk on the water while Erden follows her. However, when they reach the tree, they are unable to see any signs leading to the gambling house, until Leticia looks down and notices that there is no reflection. Suddenly, she falls into the lake, causing her to panic until Erden grabs her shoulder and she realizes that she is not wet. Surrounded by a beautiful starry sky, they come to the realization that they're actually on the opposite side of the lake. However, what truly amazes them is the magical and grand sight of the Crystal Palace. At the entrance, the two notice a rich-looking cat beast yelling because her instant camera, which serves as an entrance fee, is stated to be no more valuable than the other guests' stuff, such as the chocolate bar and the plastic bottle he refers to as the glass that never breaks. Where is this place? I'd gladly give you all of my trash, just make me rich. Leticia chooses to join in on their chat, proposing that if she demonstrates how the Polaroid works, they will allow the cat couple and them to enter. She takes their photo and shows them the film, which amazes everyone, especially her husband. The pig guard unlocks the door, and they are surprised to find not just beasts, but even humans gambling inside. After being awed by her knowledge, the pig extends an invitation to the VIP room, where they discover an even darker and more expansive aura. Erden warns her in a whisper that the area is packed with greater devils, whose gazes give her goosebumps. However, when they overhear the devils discussing Wizen, they decide to sit nearby and listen in. Wizen appears to have formed a business deal with the devils, and as she suspected, the banquet is a trap for the Hallsteads. Can we acknowledge how smart Letty is for not trusting Wizen? She's really cool. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!